I've been with the Open Source Initiative now since 2008. For the last few years I've been the president of the Open Source Initiative. The Open Source Initiative is, at its heart, a marketing program for free software. It takes the practical aspects of software freedom, the development methodology, the community openness, and makes them accessible to businesses and to those who don't want to become activists for the ethics of free software. In the early years, it was very much an upstart movement. It focused on attacking its opponents like Microsoft. It focused on defining a standard for licenses called the open source definition. During the mid part of that first decade, it became obvious that open source was going to become adopted by many businesses. I think our first highlight was being so roundly attacked by the established corporations and then having those same corporations adopting open source as their core methodology. So when, for example, a few years ago, Microsoft said it loved Linux, that was a complete reversal of the position it took in 2002. That was a delicious moment, I have to say. Software freedom is the essential ingredient for the profitability of companies using open source, for the career mobility of developers who are using open source, and for the deployment of open source into new technologies like cloud and IoT. Open source has become completely mainstream now, and I think that's a great thing. I think it vindicates the vision that many of us had 20 years ago. It's also a challenge because it's become so widely adopted now that people want to use the term open source to describe things that aren't good for software freedom. So I think that in the third decade that we're just entering, one of our focuses will be on making sure that software freedom becomes foremost.